Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome back to you at the second APAC Higher EdTech Innovation Conclave. This is a 3-day conclave with the first 2 days focused on higher education and third day on school education. So today is the first day, and in the morning we had an inaugural session where senior policymakers from the government side spoke about the education roadmap. Then we had the director of AICT and the director of CBS talking about from the academic bodies and institutions uh, about the educational roadmaps. We had three very interesting panel discussions with key academicians and educators talking about different facets of education. And now we have this panel talking about the NEP oriented, the new education policy oriented new vision for higher education. And for this, it's my pleasure to introduce the panelists. We have with us Professor Prem Bharat. He is the Pro-Chancellor of the North Cap University in Gurugram, as well as he is the Chairman of Board of Governors in Indian School of Mines, Dhanbad. Welcome, Professor Bharat.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have with us Dr. Abhay Kumar, Vice Chancellor of Pratap University. Welcome, Dr. Abhay.
Thank you,
We have with us Dr. Parag Sanghani, Provost of PP Savani University. Welcome, Dr. Sanghani. We are now joined by Samit Singhai. He's a co-founder of True Scholar. Welcome, Samit.
Thank you.
Okay, and we will be joined by a couple of other panelists during the discussion. So, what I would like to first go through each panelist, and very briefly, I would like maybe each of you should not take more than 2 minutes to highlight what are the key provisions in the new education policy that would impact universities and other academic institutions of higher education. What are those key provisions according to you? Each panelist, very briefly, for a couple of minutes on this. If I can start with you, Professor Prem.
Thank you. The new education, the National Education Policy 2020, in fact, has a transformational roadmap for, in a big way, changing the face of education in this country. The key provisions are: it looks at education in its totality in a seamless manner from primary to secondary to tertiary education. It's holistic, looks at the integrated development of the students. It's faculty driven but student centric. It's flexible. It's modular. There are provisions of entry and exit with different degrees of the certifications. It provides you about up to 40% of courses being delivered in online mode, and 60% can be in the offline. So it provides you enormous flexibility of linking people from anywhere in the world to provide the best possible professors on some of the areas which the individual institution may not have. It has provision for academic credit transfer using the Academic Bank of Credits, and for that there is a national credit transfer framework which standardizes the various grades and the process of doing so. It focuses on Indian knowledge systems and focuses on knowledge, skill, entrepreneurship, and innovation. And and also making Indian education globally recognizable, and also provision of having foreign universities to have campuses in India. Now, these are some of the, and of course, it focuses on multidisciplinarity. Single discipline institutions have to find a way of becoming a multidiscipline institution by way of mergers or collaborations or what kind, so that there is a sizable number of size of the university in terms of its numbers and enrollments. So these are some of the key points which the new education policy provides for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll come to you next, Dr. Sanghani, with the same question. What you feel are the key provisions of the NEP?
See, if you see NEP envisage a lot of changes in our education system, and that is good in terms of multilinguality, in terms of flexibility. If you see the NEP is major focus is what we have compartmentalized our education. It is trying to free that. At the same time, the research focus, the higher education, entire infrastructure has been changed. So, lot of things has been promising, which is long pending, has been addressed by the new education policy, and definitely it will give a new perspective to our higher education system, which was much more needed. Even like say if you see the lower level, if I don't see on the higher education, but preparatory classes, or we can say beyond junior KG and senior KG, the kind of a curriculum framework has been envisaged, or kind of a proper structures of program has been envisaged. This is something good aspects of a NEP. Even they have a removing of a 10th standard, and middle year preparatory years. The way it has been planned. If that will happen, it will be definitely a good you know uh, for our country. So, if you ask me for higher education, there are a lot of drastic changes has been there in NEP, and that is where we all are have to understand and how we will be able to implement these changes. This is something which has been there. So, as per my opinion, the major impacting in higher education is the kind of flexibility and decompartmentalizations of higher education. These will two things will impact a lot to our higher education system, because you can transfer your credit, you can transfer your streams, you can go. This is something which is very very I can say game changer, right? You have
Okay.
a commerce, then you can take science,
Yes.
and that is we have too much compartmentalization. Now we are suddenly asking to remove that. So how we will be able to cope with that? That's a major question. We will
Okay.
discuss in a later stage what are the
Sure.
challenges. But if you ask me, flexibility component is the major game changer through new education policy.
Okay. Got it. So you're focusing on the flexibility part of it. I'll come to you next, Dr. Abhay Kumar. Again, I would like to have your viewpoints on what do you think are the key provisions which can be game changers in key
Yeah.
provisions in NEP.
Thank you, Rajnish ji. In fact, I'm very thankful to APAC and to all the stakeholders, to the dignified people who are present here today. Well, when we talk about the national education policy, as Professor Premrat rightly said, it has transformational reforms, both in school as well as secondary education. Actually, this NEP 2020 has aimed to increase the gross enrollment ratio in higher education, including vocational education, to 50% by 2035. Now, how is it going to become possible? There are so many things already ingrained in the policy. Like, for example, it introduces broad-based, multidisciplinary, holistic undergraduate education, flexible curricula, creative combination of subjects, integration of, say, vocational education, and multiple entry and exit points. Now, with appropriate certification also, we all know that. Now, the academic bank of credits, as rightly talked about by both the initial speakers, I would say, this has very great relevance, because the students across the country had to leave a course either because of dearth of money, or because their parents might have got transferred, or for any other reason. So what will enable them now is the mobility from course to program, and from one program to the other. Now this is going to have a very great impact on the education system of the country. um, we can even think of transferring the credits not only internationally, but also in the domestic arena, and we can even have the professors of practice. This is my thought process, from various industry and other places, so that the 40% of the credit which we can give to the students, we can give elsewhere, online credit, as rightly Professor Premrath has said. Now, apart from this, research has been given an emphasis upon. Let me talk about accept some of the people who have been doing fantastic research in the country. Research has mostly been limited to the library and maybe adding, if I can be blunt, adding a DR in front of the name because of the eligibility criteria of the regulatory bodies. So research in collaboration with the industry, so that the results of the research were carried out whether in the undergraduate education or in the PhD course, it should get translated into the social fabric of the society, either in way of a product or a service. This is what has been happening. So it would also improve industry academia collaboration, because without industry and without academia coming together, it cannot happen. Also internationalization, when we talk about, uh, only the very say affluent students maybe, or those with those very brilliant, could go outside and study. Now what will happen is, when the foreign universities come to the country, they will definitely customize themselves as per the requirement of different regions. This is a very big country. You cannot have one course structure. Customization would be definitely possible and mandatory, just as, allow me to say, that Domino's and McDonald's have come up with a tikki and samosas in their say platter. So these things have to be taken into account, and rightly the Indian knowledge has to be propagated. Yoga, Ayurveda, all these things, we have the we should move from a position of strength, and that we will do. I think this NAP incorporates all that thing. Moreover, finally, when we talk about the basic nature of assessment and evaluation in the various universities, I would say that NEP strongly feels that we should move from summative to formative assessment. I think that 2 minutes will be suffice right now. We'll talk
Yeah,
about it.
we'll talk about in detail. You raised another important point on that NEP would foster the industry academia collaboration much more. On that light, I'll come to you, Samit. Now we heard from the academia side. From the industry perspective, what maybe now you have 2 minutes to talk about what do you feel are the key provisions in the NEP, especially from the industry side, that could prove to be game changers.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, you are
Great.
audible.
So I think all the distinguished guests typically talked about what are the major changes and how impact it can bring to the right from K-12 education to the higher education space, right? And we all know we have been living into a very fragmented, or I would say, very skill specific, or a stream specific kind of environmental learning till date. And with the National Education Policy 2020, I think things have been really taken quite a brief. And with COVID, it has also accelerated. So there were a lot many things initially where industry or even the academicians were skeptic about how national education policy will help to make a multidisciplinary online mix with offline content, a skill specific competency based learning environment. But with, I think, COVID pandemic, I think lot many things have got straightened out and it has got on the fast track. So from an employer point of view, or somebody who's trying to hire a new employee, probably what they are looking forward is a mastery in a particular skill set, right? And they also want people who are typically an omni-channel, people who have multiple skills built into their DNA, I would say that. And with national education policy, much emphasis has been laid on making a multidisciplinary education in general, right? So we are talking about multiple credit systems. You can have multiple skill competencies gained during the process. And not only that, you would be only one sector specific, but you would also get a chance to learn a lot many different skill sets that kind of intermingle together, right? So not necessarily a computer engineering would not understand management guy things, or a management perspective wouldn't understand a lot of what you can say Vedic maths or Vedic science and things like that. That's typically one of the clear edge, I believe, as an corporate or as an employer probably would love to have inculcated into the mainstream education in our country.
Thank you. So we heard one round on some of the key provisions which all the panelists feel. And now let's take up some of these areas. I will start with you, Professor Prem, again. We heard about one of the key provisions is the change in the assessment method from a very content based assessment methodology, shifting towards a more competency based assessment. Now, my question is, are the universities really prepared to do these new kind of assessment mode, which is competency based? And if not, how should the universities gear themselves up to get ready to undergo this shift? Professor Prem.
You see, the current manner in which universities are assessing its students are primarily, rote learning based, and it is so prevalent across that to switch over to the competency based system will perhaps take time. And the most important requirement for that is sensitize the assessor, namely the faculty members of the universities, to what does the difference is. Because the focus from here is on teaching, from teaching to learning. And therefore, the entire assessment process is not how much you reproduce from what the lectures that you have heard, how much have you learned in the process, and therefore, this process of focus from teaching to learning or from output to outcome is indeed a major change. And for that, first and foremost, the university administrative system, the controller of examination, and the faculty themselves need to be first sensitized that what are the action points to translate this from the orientation of the, because the current manner of examination is so prevalent and so deep rooted in the university system that to think that overnight this mindset would change amongst faculty, because it calls for a different innovative methods of even conducting tests, examination. And since the moment we first understand that it has to be an outcome oriented or learning based, and hence the evaluation itself has to be preceded by the method of pedagogy. For example, instead of conventional a monologue that teachers have in the class, it has to be engaging them through project based learning, through experiential problem solving. And therefore, that kind of pedagogy, where instead of just listening to the faculty members and from a defined curriculum, and then almost structured examination through rote learning. So first, the method of teaching itself would have to be changing, so that instead of, because outcome orientation calls for a change of teaching methods, and assessment comes thereafter, involving them in real life problem solving, involving them in the societal problems, and when they use their knowledge to solve the problems of the society, that's experiential learning. And therefore, it's known that any learning in which you are involved an active participant and not a passive listener leads to a more effective learning. And therefore, with that kind of pedagogy, then the assessment would have to be done accordingly on project based involvement, group discussions, solving problems, and they're giving them specific problems, and getting maybe individually dovetailing the skills of an individual, and therefore continuous learning as they go along. And this therefore has to be, and this is a major transformational change that the policy calls for. And my feeling is that unless the teachers and the institutions are prepared for it, because it may not be that easy. First and foremost, we have to prepare them and know what's the difference, and give a clear roadmap in what needs to be done. And then we think of so this continuous evaluation by involving them, where they use their skill, their innovation in actual problem solving and project based learning, perhaps would have to be the way of doing it.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Sangani, an extension of this question, this change in assessment mode towards a most competency-based assessment mode would also require more experiential kind of learning. Now, how much are the faculties one prepared to impart this experiential based learning, and also to undertake these kind of assessments, and how would universities look to train the faculties first, so that they are inculcated in this methodology, so that they can further help students.
See, the continuing to my discussion on NEP, this is the major challenge we all will face. The intentions are very good, but when we try to implement, like say, it's very easy to say experiential learning, but who will provide that? Right, industry does not have time. If we when I work in Australia or I work into the other western countries, there's a very good movement between academics to industry. Here in India, we have in higher education scenario, we only get those who will not absorb in industry. Majority, I'm not saying all, but majority time we got academicians who could not do well in industries. They opt for the academics as a career, and in that case, whether they will be able to provide experiential learning, whether they will be able to have an assessment like this, I have my own apprehensions about the same. So what I will try to say to all of you is that NEP is good intention, but where is the manpower? Like 2 years has been passed. By 2020 we have an NEP. What step we have taken to train our manpower? Because whatever, like say, if I have a very heterogeneous class, one is from science stream, one is from commerce stream, one is from the arts stream, and if I have to teach, it require different kind of a skill set. If I have all science students and all A group students who have already done maths and physics, my teaching methodology is a different approach. When I have a B group and I have a biology student also sitting with the one person who has already taken maths, my teaching methodologies has to be changed. My resource requirement will be changed. Whether we will counter that. So experiential learning, industry interactions, and industry does not have that much time, to be very honest, in that. So because in a Western world, industry academia transitions are very easy. In India, it is not happening. Like someone is teaching for 5 years and then immediately absorb as a manager level in the corporate, you will hear very limited such stories. Each of our universities, we don't have any people who can easily absorb by the industries, right? We have to accept the fact. So experiential learning and all that is good to in speaking, but implementation is very difficult. Particularly, see, I'm not talking about the IITs and other institutions. I'm talking about the very large part of institutions who cater to the rural, semi-rural, or the tribal populations, and for them, where is the manpower? I don't have a manpower to teach, properly. Where is we will get that, things? And everyone, whether accept it on face or not, there's a dearth of a good teaching faculties. There's a very huge dearth of that, and that's where all the intentions are good, but I think implementation will be a very difficult task for all the academic administrator, who have to face a music in next 4 to 5 years, that we start implementing the policies, but we don't have a trained manpower to carry out that particular work. So that's what my submission to the discussion.
Thanks, Dr. Singhani, for playing the devil's advocate, and very highlighting the very pertinent challenge. We might talk about all the provisions in NEP with good intentions, but implementation is definitely one of the biggest challenges here. Dr. Abhay Kumar, I'll come with respect to one of the challenges and the point which you had also raised earlier in your earlier session, earlier question, the industry academia collaboration. Dr. Sangani also mentioned that experiential learning or even this competency based learning can only improve once the industry academia collaborate in a better way, or in a more synchronized way. So where do you see the challenges happening, and what both the stakeholders, both academicians and industry should do, so that this collaboration happens much smoother, like happens in some of the Ivy League universities in US or in other developed countries? So what should be done?
Very true, Mr. Rajneesh. In fact, I do agree that if the intentions are right, in that case, things will go forward. There is no doubt about it. Whatever may be the aspect, if we have good intentions, we are honest. I think I would give you a small example. During the pandemic, I thought of contacting my alumni at Pratap University. Many people deterred me, saying that maybe they are not so satisfied in the past, so please don't talk to them. They'll be just cribbing. I said, well, they are my children. Let them crib. I talked to more than 1,000 alumni. Will you believe me? And I told them that since you are a part of the university and you will always remain, you cannot change the name of the say institution from your resume, just you cannot change the name of your parents from your resume. So you are here with us to stay. If you require anything in terms of reskilling, come to us. We'll give you free of cost. And because this is a corporate maze these days. You have to constantly reskill and upskill yourself. So what happened was more than 121 alumni joined us for that particular course. And in turn, it was a win-win situation. They gave internships to our students. Most of the alumni are in the middle management level or even the top management level. So if you have to coordinate with the industry, you just have to tell them that we are honest and we would help you as you would help us. Now, I know the deterrent is that the people in the industry don't have time, for example. So likewise, the education also doesn't have that much time. We are there to teach the students and make them good human beings with the objective of that. Well, when we talk about outcomes, for example, we used to talk about Bloom's taxonomy earlier. Now, as a man of management, I would tell you we are talking about solo taxonomy, where the students' learning is assessed, knowledge is assessed. So the pedagogy has to change. The outcome has to be clearly made what exactly the outcome we want, not simply preparing a 400-page course file. That is not at all important to me. What is important is what is we are going to do as institutional leaders and what are my teachers actually doing. If a teacher has any problem, I would rather call him a facilitator, because the word teacher is getting obsolete very soon and people have always taken strong objection, but I always believe in that word still. So that Guru Shishya Parampara has to be remade. That means we call it mentors, we call it teacher guardians. It's not like that. We have to handhold our students, start thinking beyond our own biological children. And let us be very honestly say, the students will come to you, they will hear you, they will understand you, and that is how the industry will also do. Let's first talk about industry in the region where the university is located, around the region. Let's not go straight away to Bangalore and straight away to NCR. Well, I was in NCR earlier also as a dean long back, but I would say that touch the industry in the region around you first initially, then increase your scope. I am very sure the industry will be there with you. They also have problems they are facing. They would like academia to help them out of certain problems. If they feel that we are really into it, we are really going to do research, why would they spend so much money, lakhs of rupees and crores of rupees on research? Why won't they set up a lab within the campus? If we tell them, like there are universities in the south where many good MNCs have set up labs to the tune of 50 crores, 70 crores. So we have to make ourselves grow. We have to make our teachers understand the relevant pedagogy, how to teach, what to teach. Actually, the NEP also talks about moving from content to context. That means it is not the content which is at all important. The conceptual part has to be given to every student, but in what context are you preparing that student for? Is it a job or is it a career? There's a difference which I feel. So that is what I feel about how industry and academia can come together.
Thank you. Samit, now again you heard from the academia side. From an industry perspective, one on this competency based learning, when we are talking about, and everyone is mentioning the importance of an industry academia collaboration. What, according to, how can the industry, if I may say, increase or expand the scope of this collaboration with academia?
Well, I mean, first of all, I would really like the thoughts that Dr. Abhay put forward. And I would say you can take this, the word called facilitator, as the word for the whole event. I mean, that's extremely what is needed. It's a clear change in mindset. And I'm really pleased to, have this conversation with all three special dignitaries where they are focusing on completely redoing the job again, right? So they're reimagining the world where the way things have been done in the past since centuries has to be unlearned first of all. That's called, when you want to relearn something or when you want to reskill something, the first step you have to do is first unskill yourself with whatever ways you might have skilled before, because that's the only way probably when you start seeing things from the other side, right? You see the coin's other side and then come up with a new solution. I also agree with other professors. Mr. Parag, Dr. Parag said that it's extremely difficult, coming out with a complete new set of teaching pedagogy, where the importance is not how much you have learned, is how much skill you have gained. Are you really competent enough to perform a certain set of tasks? At the same time, he also stretched about, people coming from different domain. It becomes really difficult for the facilitator, or I would say the guru, the teacher, to teach all of them the same perspective about a particular skill set, right? And that's really difficult. But as you said, from an industry perspective, I am kind of a very technology friendly generation guy, you can say that, right? We believe technology can bring a whole set of new things into the world. We all know technology have already changes the last decade of the complete world, I would say that, right? So I believe adoption of technology in the pedagogy itself, by using various means of technologies, right from delivering the content to doing assessments to rewarding those assessments, would really help them to cover the gap that we see is a widened gap right now, right? We at True Scholar, we are a startup company which we have made India's first blockchain platform, which kind of rewards micro credentials or digital badges, right? And micro credentials are the new way of, I would say, called as a currency itself for your learning outcomes. It helps you to, define what kind of skill set that a particular candidate might have made mastered at or learned at, I would say that. And today I'm very proud to say that we went live almost 6, 8 months back, and we have more than 100 institutes on board, which are issuing immutable digital certificates and digital badges to their students. Recently, we got D.Y. Patil College of Engineering, which is actually an international university in itself. So the idea is adoption of technology, be it AI, ML, AR, VR, you name it, and it will help you to come out with lot many easy tools, which were difficult from a teacher's perspective to do that, right? But if you take help of technology, I'm very sure that you can overcome lot many hurdles, which we see it as on today, and very well defined by, I think, the professors, the academicians across the country. And the only way is, moment we start adopting technologies to solve all these issues, probably we would come a lot more close, step closer to the objective that we have, right? National education policy, right? That's what the word says. Policy itself indicates a long-term vision of the country, right? We don't expect things overnight to change immediately. Definitely, everyone in the ecosystem need to absorb the changes that would it would bring into, and probably I believe in the next 2, 3 years would completely go into absorbing things and trying to bring those changes into the existing pedagogy we have. Our academicians are the most, I would say, most promising fraternity in the country who keeps on working 365 days, 24 by 7 a year. They are the guys who actually bring out talent from the raw students, and make the country proud when they grow to along with them, when they grow together, and when they really make their country proud by doing something, either in terms of academics, either in terms of research, either in terms of entrepreneurship, and you name it. And that's how I would say economy gradually grows, right? So my mantra or my idea or my take would be definitely adoption of technologies to solve most of the challenges that we have. Keep on experimenting unless and until you find a perfect solution, and then move on. And Dr. Abhay very clearly said, and I really love that, you have to reach out to people, find out new ways to get people on board, right? Industria, academia, collaboration. I have been hearing this since last more than 10 years. I've been part of lot many colleges as their industry outreach corporate house, or a company. But I don't see lot much of efforts really getting into making these two different segments come together and come out with certain outcome. What Dr. Abhay said, that he personally reached out, 1,000 alumni, that's a great deal. That's a lot of work that he might or his team might has to do. But the outcome that he's trying to look forward is not just a collaboration that he wants to do. He wants to see that outcome. He wants to see that change in the students which are into the college today, right? And me, I understand very well. We are working for the future generations, right? We are not working for the people who have already, graduated or passed out from the college. But as an alumni, I believe everybody would always love to come back to their institute, their alma mater, and probably do the sake of part what alumni would, be requested or asked to do that. And I think reaching out to alumni would be definitely one of the best strategies to really seek their collaboration in terms of whatever modification or changes the policy or we see for our future students. Right.
Okay. Okay. Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you. Okay, so we heard two key aspects of the new education policy, and how maybe some of the best practices or roadmap that can be followed. Professor Prem, I'll come back to you. Another important point, one of the panelists mentioned this also. The new education policy foresees a lot of multidisciplinary,
Yeah.
I may say, if I may use the word amalgamation, or
Mhm.
convergence of a lot of multidisciplinary
Yeah, true,
skills.
true.
Now that will require a lot of upskilling or reskilling. Uh, Now, the two important stakeholders in the whole education ecosystem, the students and faculties, how geared up are both these stakeholders to undertake this upskilling and reskilling in this multidisciplinary environment?
Well, before I respond to your specific question, let me react to two points of two observations made. I think one by Dr. Parag and maybe is that the people who do not find job elsewhere come for teaching. I think it's a very unfortunate statement, because to me, the entire fulcrum of the success of this policy is based on sincere, committed, outstanding, compassionate teachers. And if the people who are not absorbed by the industry come for teaching, if this perception remains, the entire NEP is bound to fail. Because you forgot the initial point I made. It is faculty driven and student centric. So the student centric takes care of the outcome, but the people who leading, like for example, I mean, to me, teacher is not a teacher anymore, or facilitator is only one. To me, in fact, the role of a teacher, I don't even consider him as an employee. He is a nation building component of a nation building process. And unless we respect teaching profession with that perspective, and to me, a teacher is a person who involves, inspires, and transforms. And the role of teaching is now involving them. That's the kind of pedagogy, inspiring them. And unless the best and the brightest of the society come forward at teaching as their first love, what kind of inspiration will they be able to give to the students? And therefore that transformational role is important. Secondly, industry, to my mind, has to change its mindset towards academic institution. The moment you look at right now, the feeling seems to be that academia is the receiving end and the industry are the giver. To me, it's the other way around. In fact, the moment industry looks at these academic institutions as the nursery of their future talent pool, it is in our own interest to nurture this proactively. Otherwise, they are ignoring academia at their own peril. And this mindset, to us, we are only custodian for 4 years. The lack of talent crunch would actually ruin the competitive advantage of these industries. And therefore, the moment you look at these institutions as your future talent pool, it becomes your obligation to proactively nurture them, hand holding, and you'll come together. Otherwise, in the long run, you are ruining your own competitive advantage. This mindset change has to take place. And therefore, unless society starts respecting teachers so that the best and brightest come for teaching is the first preference, to me, the policy hinges upon, and for that, the four prerequisites are faculty in that order. The best and the brightest as faculty who can inspire, whose own credentials are outstanding and nobody can match, because people from industry should really find that there is a gain in going to the academia by way of enhancement of their learning. Faculty, funding, freedom, and flexibility. You provide these four F's, this would happen. And in that process, the real recipient of this benefit of academic institutions are the employers. They must come forward wholeheartedly, proactively, and do that handholding. That's the way I look at it. And in that process, we look, and that's why nurturing faculty has to be the first uh, basic point, for which AICT has developed, the National Initiative for Technical Teachers Training. They're doing enormous amount of faculty development programs, spending AICT is spending money. Colleges have to really recognize, and unless the private institutions, particularly, respect teachers as the most important component of this institution. In fact, unless the private institutions look at faculty as an asset and building as a liability, right now the mindset could be faculty is a liability and buildings are the assets. This mindset transformation is a prerequisite for this policy to improve. Now, coming to your question of the flexibility, that point made by Dr. Parag is very well. See, this policy talks of flexibility, but there's always a limit of flexibility in anything that you do. Therefore, depending upon the context, institutions have to find out this much flexibility and no more. Otherwise, you become a jack of all trades and master of none. Therefore, while the flexibility is only enabler, the optimal degree of flexibility has to be seen in the context in which you are teaching and the purpose. Otherwise, it will become absolutely unmanageable if there are 50 students in the class, each one with a different background. Then the only outcome will be confusion. So, therefore, flexibility only as enabler, with very cautiously amended an optimal degree of flexibility for the purpose intended has to be seen, and that's a fairly difficult job.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll come to you, Dr. Parag. In fact, I would like your response on 2 points which Professor Prem mentioned. One, on the earlier point about Professor Prem mentioned that the NEP, the main provision, should be faculty driven, student centric. So, how the faculty and the student can really play the constructive role here. And second, you advocated on that flexibility part, but as Professor Prem mentioned, that how would you define that optimal level of flexibility which can be so, or can it be defined? Isn't it very intangible? So, your response on these two things.
It is all question of mindset, and we are yet not ready for that, right? Because we have so many years we have not agreed that person who has taken commerce can learn science also. That person who has taken science can be very good in arts also. So it's very difficult, and we have not yet placed a proper structure. So there are a lot of people who may take advantage. The people, there are so many now EdTech companies are coming in, tying up with the universities, offering the program. So flexibility cannot ruin our current system where we have still some control. Otherwise, our we have a lot of uneducated parents are there. There are a lot of people who even not understand the basic education systems, and I have my own apprehension that this flexibility will make those the larger organization much bigger. Like we put it a restriction that 100 NRF can only can open online and all that. So how we will be able to do that? So my take is on that this flexibility part we have to see the system and processes how we will be able to do. I'm very sorry. I have an urgent, intervention. We have a tomorrow very big concert. Around 10,000 people coming to the campus. I need to be there. So I'm extremely sorry. I may have to leave, this discussion. But thank you very much for calling me. I think you can continue, Mr. Rajneesh. But please excuse me because there is some urgent intervention. I have to be there. Right? Thank you. So this is my
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, we understand. Dr. Abhay, I will come to you with a slightly different take on this question. What we have seen is some of the learning method which the education sector has been talking for some time, th- those adoption got accelerated during the pandemic out of necessity since the offline classes were not happening. Now, as a result, and the NEP also came out during these pandemic times. Finally, the NEP. So now my question is, in future, while Touchwood, it might should not be the situation like that we face. But even then, I think most of us will agree that some form of a blended kind of learning,
Yeah.
both through offline as well as online mode, is here to stay. Now, this in this blended kind of learning model, how does that fit in with the NEP provisions? And even if that fits in, isn't that a challenge for a country like India? We have such a diversified country, and some of our infrastructure also, internet connectivity or power, the quality of those infrastructure is not uniform across the country. There are students from different socioeconomic strata uh, for whom, because technology will come at a cost, so it
Yeah.
might not be affordable for all kind of students. So how do the academicians manage all these provisions of a blended learning model within the NEP?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rajnish. But initially, let me say one thing. Uh, when we talk about our faculty, I am very proud of every facilitator or teacher, whatever we call them. We have seen during this pandemic that they have risen to the occasion
Yeah. True.
and helped every school and institution. They
Very
have
true.
done more than they could have. They have worked till 10 in the night and solved the problems of the students, so problems of the parents even. So we must say, I always say they are better corona warriors than anybody else. Well, the healthcare workers and the security
Very
forces
true.
are there. We should
Thank
be
you. Yeah.
proud of our faculty. We
Yeah.
should
True.
give them the inputs that they deserve and that they require. If we have a child at our home and he is unskilled in certain issues, do we leave them? No, we don't. So we have to do something to upskill them. We have to help them in this. And that is what exactly is going to happen. But as far as blended learning, which you have talked, coming back to your question, of course, it is here to stay. Technology has disrupted education, and not only education, but every walk of life.
Hmm.
And so, what we have to understand very clearly is that technological changes had been taking place in the last decade, only it was hastened by the pandemic.
Yeah. True.
Hastened to the effect that what would have come in the next 4 years happened in just 6 months.
Yeah.
And maybe that is why we were not all very prepared to take it up immediately. Even at my age, I'll say, I was not very good in terms of technology, but I think now I can boast of saying कि I know almost every bit of technology which is taking place in the university. I've learned it from my IT head. So you should have the will to learn, first thing. My senior professors in my university have been learning from the younger ones. Pedagogy will be changing. I know it will always change as per the situation, as per the requirements of the society, as per requirements of the say students and any other stakeholder. It has to change with time. But what is very important right now, in my opinion, is motivating everyone, keep them mentally well, and to see to it that they are rising to the occasion. And with
Mhm.
blended learning, I would rather call it hybrid learning, or even better, high flex learning. That means it should be highly flexible. The
Yeah.
mode we should be using, the mode we should be using is, we are talking about shifting from STEM to STEAM. That means
Mhm.
when we talk about science, technology, engineering, and management, we must have arts incorporated in it. Arts means humanities, music, everything.
It's there.
And this is exactly what the national education policy talks about. We talk about holistic development of the student. How is it going to happen? I'll give an example. 15 years back, when I was dean of an institution, of an university in near Aligarh and Mathura, I had introduced the choice-based credit system, in which we used to teach music, tabla or guitar to the students. Even other items, we didn't give marks for that because that was not accepted. We gave grades below the mark sheet. And many students were taken by the institutions because they were more skilled in other aspects rather than any other aspirant. So it is not that learning is never going to be bad in any way. The more you learn, the better you are. The more diversity there is in your character and personality, I think
Yeah.
that is better. There's no harm in it. So I
Absolutely.
personally believe, let the market forces also decide things, and let us move forward together. And one thing I can very clearly say: we cannot live in isolated islands of excellence. We have to collaborate, whether it is industry, whether it is academia, industry, academia, whether it is with international universities or it is with domestic universities.
Mhm.
Even we have collaborated with some, done MOUs, struck MOUs with some domestic universities in India. Just yesterday, I think I was talking to one of the vice chancellors in the south of the country. we were talking that let's share our resources. Share our resources. We are far away. We cannot share our laboratories. But if you have a very good virtual laboratory in place, allow our students to access that. And he was ready.
Yeah.
And what I am doing is I have a very good pharmacy faculty with us. I said, okay, the best of my professors who are one of the best in the region will teach your students also. So
Yeah.
we have collaboration has to be a buzzword now.
Yeah,
Actually, the
definitely.
world was very big earlier. It has shortened down. After the pandemic, it is a very small world we are living in. Even I have done more than 200 webinars, conferences, and everything in the past 1.5 year to 2 years time.
Sure.
So, that is a great learning. I learned from the likes of stalwarts like Professor Premrat sir and all others who are there on the platform. It is a great learning for me. So, and
Sure.
it is a learning for me at every stage of life. And I will keep on learning. But as Samit said, first unlearn and then relearn.
Yeah, yeah.
So, thank you so much for
Sure.
that.
Sure. Samit, I'll come to you. I heard about from the industry sides over your experience. How do you propose going ahead this, if I may say, the cooperation with industry and the concrete action points? What do you like to mention?
Great. So I completely agree with Professor Prem and Dr. Abhay Kumar. And what he said, I'll tell in Hindi, Jaako rake saiya maar sake na koi, right? So you need to have that intent to learn at whatever stage of life you are, right? That's extremely important for everyone, probably in the country, to have that mindset that, you should not say no, but you should say yes. Try to adopt it, make an attempt to it, and probably make n number of attempts, right? ये तो हमको बचपन से सिखाया जाता है ना, unless and until you try you won't get succeed, right? Failure is the first step towards success. That's what everybody teaches you in life. And what Dr. Prem said, right, कि it is equally important to have flexibility but a end to it. But I see it from a different perspective. शायद मुझे लगता है कि फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी शब्द का मतलब हम बहुत इंफिनिटी तक लेके जा रहे हैं, राइट?
No.
एंड व्हाट ही सेड कि फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी की एक लिमिट होगी, एंड ही इज राइटली आइडेंटिफाइड कि वी जस्ट नीड टू find out what limit of that flexibility we are willing to go. Sir, Dr. Parag said probably, it's always difficult to have people from commerce and arts and engineering to teach the same language, but that's not going to happen, guys. We need to see flexibility का मतलब वो कहते हैं ना, people who don't have, who have sugar probably say थोड़ी कम चीनी चाहिए, but ये कम चीनी का कोई definition नहीं है ना. So you get a very sweetener tea or you don't get at all the sugar into the cup of tea, right? When you say thoda, it's not a grade, it's not a parameter. And that's what we have to figure out. It's just thoda what has been mentioned in the flexibility word. We as an educator probably, and even the recipient side, the students, the learners of this country would come to an extent which is equally beneficial for them, right? मुझे नहीं लगता कि एक आर्ट्स का स्टूडेंट आके इंजीनियरिंग का प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज सीखने आएगा unless and until he has that passion into it, right? And when somebody has a passion, I don't think so it's difficult to teach him. I have lot many, tech team who might have not even from an engineering college, but they make absolutely right candidate for a
Yeah.
job. तो
True.
ये जो पेडागॉजी आज हम इवॉल्व करना चाहते हैं इस देश के लिए, इट टॉक्स अबाउट ब्रिंगिंग आउट दैट पैशन इनसाइड यू. सर ने कहा कोई आर्ट्स, कोई म्यूजिक का क्लास लगाना चाहता, कोई तबला लगाना चाहता था, बट वी डोंट यूज टू गिव दैट क्रेडिट. मतलब हम खुद ही बोल रहे हैं कि इसका क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा, तो हम ये मोटिवेट कर रहे हैं कि ज्यादा का काम मत करो. We are not allowing people to learn explore their own passion. And that's what flexibility with the new education policy is bringing a flavor into it. It will give you a wide range, but still small enough where you can pursue your passions, your likings, and then you can become excel at it. और जब हम दिल से करते हैं कुछ, जो चीज हमारे दिल के करीब होती है, we wanted to learn, we probably become masters to it. And what Dr. Prem said, I really salute to teachers, and they are the nation builders, as he rightly said. कोई कुछ नहीं बनता इसलिए टीचर बनता. Even I don't agree to the statement, and that's not something we would like to even talk or cherish about, right? People who have that passion to change, to bring that change into the next generation, are definitely our teachers, are definitely our torch bearers to make that country literate enough for the 21st century. I also
Sure.
say COVID is a blessing in disguise, right? I mean, it's not in the right context, but like
No,
Professor said,
definitely.
it has made a lot of changes short term, जो 4 साल में होना था सबने कहा वो 6 महीने में हो गया,
Yeah.
and that's really
Welcome.
true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
so I'll briefly come to each panelist for 1 minute. Your last statement in the last round, starting with Professor Prem. We talked about NEP next 6 to 12 months, or
Mhm.
let's take 1 year, 12 months. What are the changes you foresee which will happen? Which will happen? So, one is a lot of the potential are there, but what changes you
You see,
feel
they,
are
I
likely to
believe in
take?
the next, see, the policy, a policy is as good as implemented on ground. And for that, we need to prepare the enablers. And the first enabler, as I said, sensitize the institutions and the faculty through extensive faculty development program, and then create a structure of pedagogy. And therefore, perhaps next 1 year we need to, because right now, not many institutions are fully aware of all the implications of NEP. I mean, it's not to be seen as something which is a document which only few people should know, unless each and every component on all stakeholders are fully involved in it. So sensitizing them, developing training, learning, and then preparing a roadmap for. And AICT has developed an exact roadmap of implementation. I was a member of that committee, which spells out how each of these components are to be translated on a action time base. So let people be exposed to a clear roadmap, and I think that perhaps next 1 year should be only preparing the ground for implementing it.
Thank you, Dr. Abhay. What do
Yeah.
you feel should be happening in priority in the next 12 months?
Yeah, I fully agree with Professor Premrat sir. The fact is that first we have to start believing in ourselves.
Yeah.
That means, as institutions, as institutional leaders, as faculty members, it is our duty to believe in the education policy and believe in doing it. So it's not simply a document, first thing. Second, all the aspects given in the national education policy, I feel, are interrelated.
Yeah, true.
That means you cannot think of going in for a better research activity till you change your pedagogy, till you change the mindset of your faculty members, till you change the mindset of the students. So everything has to go in tandem. It may take,
Yeah,
it may have a slow pace of implementation, but initially when you start anything new, the pace should always be slow. It should not be very fast.
yeah, true,
Bec-
true.
because when you start with a slow pace, you strengthen yourself,
Yeah,
and once you strengthen the base, then whatever comes out is going to be fantastic, and I'm very sure of it that this policy is definitely going to be implemented.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know when we talk about pedagogy, for instance, you know we are in fact, the education system, we all know, is a hangover of the British and industrial age. So it will require a change in mindset. We are so fixed in our mindset that we are going to teach this, the outcome should be this. No, we have to drive the outcome, and so make relevant changes in the pedagogy, in the way we are teaching the students, in the way we are holding our classes. There are so many methodologies, especially as a management graduate, I must say that there is a plethora of activities, there is a plethora of ways and manners in which these things can be done. So we have all to come together, and the institutional leaders here are having a very important role to play. All the faculty members and staff members are looking up to you.
welcome.
So you
Okay,
have to exhibit that honesty and confidence, and they'll deliver it, I'm very sure.
okay.
So this is how I think this is going to happen.
Thank you. And Samit, the last word. What do you feel should happen on priority in the next 12 months?
I think both the gentlemen have clearly said, yes, it's a time for preparation. And my one word would be definitely first to unlearn things, right? We have to propagate this to the fraternity, to the institutes, to the vice chancellors, to the faculty, educate them about the national education policy. And I would recommend, call it a national education COVID 2022, say that it's a virus, and then you only have a timeline for 1 year to, prepare everything. वो कहते हैं ना, building a foundation गड्ढे करने के बाद, that's how expedited. Probably, I think the moment you start sensitizing the whole fraternity, you start talking about it, it's the ideal stage for brainstorming, and that's what we should do collectively. Involve the industry wherever you feel them,
Yeah,
that they are the right ones to bring that sea change at a very small amount of time. And I think we all are there to extend our hand support to the institutes, to our country itself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to all the panelists,
Thank you.
Professor Prem Rath, Dr.
Thank
Parag
you very much.
Sangani,
Thank you.
Dr. Abhay Kumar, and Sumit Singhai. With that, we come to the close of this panel and also the day one of the 3-day
Yeah. Thank
conclave.
you.
And before we close, maybe it makes sense to mention our industry partners without whose cooperation, again, arranging a convention of this scale might not have been possible. So we have Microsoft as our technology partner, Samsung as our display partner, Avaya as our digital transformation partner, Yash Technologies as our gold partner, TrueScholar as our credential partner, and Intercell as our associate partner. Thanks to all
Thank you very
the
much. Thank you
industry
very much. All
partners.
the best.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
To
you
all
so
the
much. Thank you
panelist
so
team,
much, APAC
perfect
and
and
Rajnish ji and
interesting.
everyone. Thank you so much.